This weekend interview is powered by Modex. Need more energy, endurance, and faster recovery? Try Modex. Visit www.modexnatural.com. Hey legends, this week on the Inside Running Podcast weekly interview, we've got an interview from back in 2018 from Collis Birmingham. This was one that Moose and I split. I took the first half and he took the second half. And we did this, I think it was maybe our first ever live show in Ballarat when Moose was still living in Ballarat. And, Collis, obviously a pretty significant Ballarat figure as well, one of the greatest distance runners to ever come out of Ballarat. There's quite a few of them, but I'd say it'd be pretty close to the top, him and Montegetti. Maybe I've got that wrong. Someone will no doubt correct me. Had about 85 people there, which I think was pretty daunting back in the day. It was recorded July 6th, 2018. We put it out as a standalone interview too, I think. So, yeah, this was very special for us to have the opportunity to chat with Collis. There were some good stories in here. Kind of start off with how he kind of first got into running and things like that, and then went through a couple of the different significant moments, I guess, in his career. And we even showed some footage of him at the Great Run, which was in Melbourne. I think it was the first time that he beat Mottram and stuff. I think that was a bit of a highlight of me listening to him talk about that when he kind of come of age as one of the, probably the number one Australian distance runner at the time. So I really hope you enjoyed that. What else is coming up? We've got Road to Chicago episode 6 coming up this week. We've got a whole lot of new interviews planned for the next couple of weekends. Some new ones as well. I'm recording one on Monday and really looking forward to talking to this person for the first time that they'll feature on Inside Running. He was a big breakthrough at the Olympics. There's a bit of a hint for you. And I've been a fan of his work for the last couple of months. So yeah, really looking forward to sitting down and chatting with him. Enjoy your weekend. Enjoy this chat with Collis. We'll do it all again next week. See you, legends.
That your skin can bring you so much pain. Now I hear you say you got the best of both ways. Won't you come and take a walk?
Yeah, thank you to Collis Birmingham for giving up some time today, and thanks to all the people who have bought a ticket and given up their Sunday afternoon to spend some time listening to this conversation that we're going to have with Collis today. I can probably speak on behalf of Julian and Brad that we're pretty amazed that we can get 80 people in a room to do a live podcast. We definitely didn't think that this was going to happen when we started it and played around with that Road to Berlin stuff about 10 months ago. So thanks for you guys for supporting the show. We really appreciate that. And just before we start today, I've just got to give a couple of thanks. So the first thanks goes to Julian and Brady at the running company in Ballarat. Julian usually just watches cat videos on YouTube most of the day, but he's been working pretty hard getting this show together the last 3 weeks and, doing a pretty good job. And, coordinating a live show takes a bit of work, coordinating the audio and the venue and the sponsors and things like that. So a big thanks to Bree and Julian at the running company Ballarat for their support. Thanks to Nike for giving us 3 pairs of shoes to give away today. So you'll see the Nike Pegasus hooking around and at the back up there. So they've kindly given us 3 pairs, and we're going to pull some names out of the hat at the end of the afternoon today. The venue here, the Inexterior Cafe, a big thank you to Jamie, who's usually closed on a Sunday but opened the doors today. So if you get an opportunity to buy a drink or some food at some stage, I'm sure he'll appreciate that. He is a club runner down at the Wednesday night, the run club down at the running company. So we thank him for his support. And also Benny Walker, who's sorting us out with the audio over here today. So we use Benny's track at the start and the end of every episode. So he's kindly driven from Melbourne. He played a gig there last night and given up his time to... We know how to do this stuff on Skype, but we don't really know how to do it in a live venue. So big thanks to Benny for giving up his time and helping out today as well. So big thanks to those people. And finally, Collis for giving up his Sunday afternoon. Usually be chilling out, I'm sure, on a Sunday afternoon after a long run, but thanks for coming out and sharing some stories with us this afternoon.
No, it's good. It's good to be here. It's good to see a few people showed up. A few people have been listening to the podcast at 1.5 speed, I believe. So it'll be good to know that it's just normal pace this week.
Into the jokes already. I'm going to introduce you properly though, and I'm going to read this from the sheet of paper just because I don't want to make a mistake. So Collis Birmingham is a 2-time Olympian and a 15-time World Championship representative and a 2-time Commonwealth Games representative and multiple Australian champion. He has an impressive range over all the distances from 800 metres to the half marathon. His personal bests are 1:49 for 800 metres, 3:35 for 1,500 metres, which is the 10th fastest Australian of all time. He's ran 3:54 for the mile, which is the 8th fastest Australian of all time. 7:35 for the 3K, which is the 2nd fastest Australian of all time. 13:09 for the 5K, which is also the 2nd fastest all time. And 27:29 for the 10K, which is also 2nd fastest Australian of all time. And 60 minutes and 56 seconds, which is the 3rd fastest Australian of all time. So quite an impressive range. Add to that his 8th place at the World Cross Country Championship, which is only been the 3rd person to come top 10 from an Australian there as well. So Ryan Gregson, we sent him a message yesterday and he described Collis as a humble, caring and selfless friend and a teammate who is a natural leader. He loves his family, he loves his close friends, and he loves North Melbourne, Triple J music, quality films and a beer. So Inside Running audience, please help us in welcoming one of Australia's greatest ever distance runners to the Inside Running podcast, Collis Birmingham. Pretty solid.
Yeah, there's no number one rankings though. That's all seconds, thirds, eighths, tenths. Oh well.
Oh well, yeah. I think it's still pretty. How do you go when you hear that kind of stuff? How does it make you feel?
Oh, I mean, I'm pretty content with how I went. I think through my career, I was never expecting to go as far as I did, and certainly I didn't expect to do it for as long as I did and be as successful as I was. So I loved every bit of it, still enjoying it. And you always think that you run a PB, but you always think you got a little bit more. But I'm starting to think that certainly for a lot of those, like that 800, I won't be running 1:49 ever again. That's for sure. Won't run 3:35. I'm not even sure I'll run an 800 ever again. So some of that's definitely behind me, but then I've got other things to look forward to as well.
The other question I want to ask about that is Australian singlets. You must have about 22 of them sitting in the wardrobe at home. What do you do with them? You frame them or just sitting around?
My dad's framed a few of the Olympic Commonwealth Games ones. There's a few ugly ASICS ones that stay right down the bottom of a bag somewhere. That's
got the wrong logo on them.
Yeah, no, it's not about that. I think they're just not very attractive. It was kind of like a few years that Athletics Australia was getting singlets from them, and they're not very nice.
Very good.
I still got them though.
Yeah. So take us back to the start. I did hear a whisper, and I couldn't Google this one. But is it true that your first running club was the Bendigo Harriers? Were you in Daylesford or Castlemaine or somewhere like that? Was that the beginning?
I grew up in Lancefield, which
right.
is kind of centre of Victoria, and it was, I guess it's Melbourne's maybe 45 minutes away. Bendigo's kind of around the same, I think. We went to Bendigo, and my older brother ran as well, so I would go down over Saturday with him. Dad would drive us. We actually go to Melbourne for my sister's netball in the morning, and then to Bendigo in the afternoon for the running. Ran a few races with them, and then a couple of years later we moved to Ballarat and joined Eureka, and I've been with Eureka ever since. Yeah,
so what age was that? Were you obviously pretty good at an early age, and it was worth sitting in the car to do that big trip to race?
It was probably more no choice. Yeah. Brother and sister are doing this, you've got to come. too young to stay at home on my own. But it was good. I loved running at the time. We had a little athletic centre there, and I did that. And then, club running's just an extension of that. And I was probably only 8 or 9, running 1K races, things like that during cross country.
Yeah. Can I guess when you're at school though, like were you dominating club, all kind of school cross country and heading down to Bundoora at those young ages as well?
Yeah, I mean, I did well. I definitely didn't dominate. I remember, again, my brother Joel, older brother, he made like Vic teams when he was a year before me, so he made a Vic team in '93, and then, with your siblings, it's just they do something, so you automatically assume that like you're next. So the following year, I made the national junior team. Victorian junior team, and went to Canberra for nationals. And then it was just a progression. You just all of a sudden, like it or not, you're a runner, and I did like it, but. It kind of becomes who you are in a bit, and in a way, and you just, you run for the club, you run for the school, all your mates think you're the fastest of all your mates, and you just continue on that path, basically. Yeah. What
were you like as a kid? Like, did it build your confidence in being successful at running, or kind of quiet, or out there, or?
I think I was all right.
Yeah. Did the teachers head in a bit, or?
I was terrible at school, and we'll probably get to that later because I think I got asked to leave a couple of times. Yeah, that's right. For sure. But I just really enjoyed running, and for a long time, I would say from the age of 10 till now, running was the number one thing in my life. Like, even though as a 10-year-old you can't really go anywhere with it, you're still at home, and even when you're a 15-year-old, you're still at home, you go to school, whatnot. I think you can still think about it like it's the number one thing. So that's what it was like for me. I always gave my all in my running, and probably didn't give my all in other aspects. Yeah.
Did you have a moment was it after 10 or 15 or 16 when you thought, rightio, I'm not just, this is what I can actually do for a living and spend a huge chunk of my life travelling the world doing?
That probably came later, the doing it for a living and travelling. But there was a moment when I was about 14, I think, when I played other sports, played basketball, played a little bit of football with the school, played some cricket as well. I was never good at cricket though. And one Saturday I had to make a decision whether to play basketball or run. I think just run a 3K at the local track, into club, and I just said to Dad, I'll just stay here, like forget the basketball. Not that basketball was, I wasn't that good at that either, but I enjoyed team sports. But that was probably the point where I was focusing solely on my running. Yeah.
And the Ballarat culture obviously would have helped develop that over the years?
Yeah, I mean, like when I was maybe 10 or 11, I think, Joel and I, my brother, along with a couple of guys here who are here tonight actually, we were coached by Rod Griffin, locally. So we had a really good group, all within, I guess, 8 years of each other. I was probably the youngest at that time, but then there was Joel, Lockie, Matt Griffin, Christian Stradala, who's here, and we all kind of moved through. They went through juniors obviously before me, but then we were there training together into sort of teens and early 20s and things like that. So it was you'd turn up to see them and socially, and you'd get fit as part of it. Yeah, as part of it.
What about the influence of Joel as the older brother? Like, was he like towering you up a bit, or like did you have to earn your spot there?
He definitely beat me for a long time. Like as a kid, but he was, and I guess you need to know Joel, but he's kind of, he could never really focus on it. He's like, I mean, Joel at the moment, he works offshore in the North Sea, living in Holland,
Right.
and he like works on big wind turbines and things like that. He swings off buildings in harnesses. Like, he's just kind of a bit wild. So he spent a little bit of time outside the sport when he was 15, 16, and I kind of overtook him then. But up until that point, he was definitely faster than me.
Yeah, cool. I didn't realise that he was so competitive, and that was kind of your lead into the career and stuff.
Yeah,
cool.
Good.
So then, when was the first kind of state title or Vic team? Like, can you remember, like, really making your mark and like dominating?
So the first Vic team was 1994, and I kind of made the next few cross country. Didn't make track, and I made my first track team in 1996 to the Pacific School Games.
Yeah.
And it was funny actually, because I ended up going there and ran the 800 and ran well, but I think I was fourth, and then ran the 1500 and had the race of my life. To that point, won the 1500 in 4:35, and I was like over the moon.
Yeah.
To then like be told later that day that in the same age group, Georgie Clark ran 4:33, and I was like, I just won nationals, but I'm the second fastest 13-year-old to a girl. Yeah.
Yeah, very good, very good. So then the progression obviously continues. So you're in high school now, like 13, kind of puberty's kicking in, and you're kind of growing a bit. And
it's a bit early for me.
Bit early, yeah. Starting to get a bit of facial. Probably a bit early for me as well, to be honest. But yeah, like, is it starting to, you're starting to make progress there, and it's starting to feel like you could really, do this? Like, it's what you're going to be destined to do?
Yeah, certainly by that stage, like, going into high school, I was definitely definitely the runner. Like, first day of high school, people that I went to school with kind of knew that I was the runner.
Were you the popular runner or like the nerdy runner?
Do you have to be one or the other?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I'm not sure. People in the audience might know, but yeah.
No, I definitely. While my schoolwork shows, I definitely wasn't a nerd.
Yeah.
But
popular it is.
Yeah. I still, at the time, played. Like, I was still went and played soccer with the school, played volleyball with the school, played a couple of games of football, but that kind of stopped because I was taking running so seriously. I tried to do things that I wasn't going to hurt myself, I guess.
Yeah.
That was. I still don't think, like, I was definitely taking it serious, but I'd won like a junior cross country at that stage in 97 or 98, so I was like year 7 or 8, an Australian one, maybe won a track one in 99, so I was definitely like one of the best in my age group. I had a good rivalry with a kid from Queensland, Mitch Keeley, and we actually both ended up going to the first Olympics together in 2008, so that was good. He would like beat me over the shorter things, and I'd beat him over the longer stuff, so that was good. But my age group, like, no one dominated. Like, someone could win. It was like a different guy winning most years, but there was 3 or 4 of us who were always there. Yeah.
And were you guys training hard as juniors? Like, I guess we often see, and you would have seen it over the years, like, so many people on the scene for 2 or 3 years and burn out. Like, you've been one guy who's been around the whole time.
Yeah, we were training, like, we would turn up to training and we would often train hard, but it was more just at that age, just turning up and being there was better for you than taking it so seriously. And we often talk about it, but we used to run out in the bush in Canadian forest and find a burnt out car and stop at it and throw rocks at it for like 40 minutes.
Run back again.
And then just run back, And
That was training.
Yeah. But at the time, I guess you kind of convince yourself that it's serious, and it probably is serious enough. I think definitely now you do have to. I think there has to be a switch when you're maybe 17, 18, where you've been training. If you've been in the sport, I think it's good to do other sports, but if you've been in the sport for a little while, you want to flick that switch where you do need to think about how you're going to train at this level when you're a senior. If you've been training at this level, like you do have to get there eventually.
Yeah.
And it's time to start planning how to get there.
Yeah.
Up until that point, it's probably just enjoy it, stay injury free. Yeah.
And is that what happened to you, like with the move from Rod to Nick? Was that when things started to get a bit more serious?
That's definitely when I was definitely taking it serious. With Rod, I made World Junior cross country when
Kipchoge won it that year, didn't he? Was that right?
Yeah, he did. So Kipchoge, he won my race. I think I was 84th, and then later that year he went and ran 12:55. So he's under 20, he's a junior, ran like 12:55 and won Paris World Champs against like Bakili and
Al Garouge. All in the same race. Yeah.
I had no chance really.
Yeah. What did you get like? So that first, and I think Julian's got is that an image up there of that might have been a bit later at World Cross, but 2008. What happens when you come home from that first junior World Cross though, and you're like 84th, and you're like, well, it's a big world out there, and I'm a long way back.
Well, so I did come 84th, but I by the time I got back from it was in Switzerland. I'd actually been upgraded to 83rd, I think, because there was an age cheat.
Yeah.
There's
only one.
A Ugandan who was probably like 42, who beat me, so they upgraded me. But didn't really matter.
Yeah.
I remember I was like just super pumped to get back into training, and I actually probably made a mistake. First overseas trip, came home and just started off the plane trying to get back into normal training, and actually sort of went downhill a little bit because of the jet lag. And but then once things settled, I think the next year or so I've focused on running 8s and 1500s, which wasn't a terrible idea at the time. I probably, if I could do it over again, I might still run the 8s and 15s, but I would have, like I was saying, I would have tried to think further ahead and try and get myself training correctly in preparation for what was to come. For me, with training, like threshold running and good long runs every week, things like that were really what helped me with my running, and I wish I had have figured that out a little bit earlier. Yeah.
Which is hard for every individual. I'm sure everyone looks back and wishes they knew something 5 years before they did.
I feel like the whole running scene now in Australia have they get that now. Like even just average groups or fun runners, they get the training a little bit more now, and they're doing that. They're trying to get a long run in every Sunday and things like that. Whereas maybe when I was coming through, maybe that wasn't as popular at the time.
Yeah, so you went to World Juniors with Rod, and then when was the move to Nick, and then things upped again?
Yeah, so it was a while later. So 2003, I went to World Juniors in Lausanne. I did represented Australia one more time, or maybe twice more while Rob was still coaching me. But the first one was the next one was 2005. They used to do these cricket miles in New Zealand. So they'd pick a team of four Aussies, 4 New Zealanders, and during lunch of the cricket, we'd run a mile in the middle of the field. And I remember being over at Eden Park it wasn't a real Australian team. It was just like a bit of a Mickey Mouse thing. But I remember being in Eden Park over there and standing in front of like their equivalent of Bay 13, and we'd sort of stand just out of reach of things to be thrown at us.
In running shorts and a singlet.
Yeah, and like you just see like oranges bouncing, and like someone threw a fish, like a piece of flake. Yeah, but yeah, and then so that was 2005, and Nick actually managed me on the 2003 World Cross Country trip, the junior trip. He was the team manager. Benita, who he was coaching, she came, I think, 4th that year, which was like a phenomenal run.
Yeah. And
then she won the following year. And then it was probably, I think it was late 2005. Late 2005, I ran into Nick, and he started, I told him I wanted to go to Europe. It was a plan that both Rod and I sort of had for our future, and we just started, he got me into a few races at the start. I went and trained with Craig Mottram and Benita and Sonia up at Falls Creek a couple of times. And I don't think it wasn't for another 2 years that I went overseas with the group, but it was just a small start, I guess. Yeah.
So that transition from like just jump into sessions and then all of a sudden you're going overseas and in the group.
Yeah.
What was that like entering a group of that, like those names you just listed, like all pretty much dominating the world scene at that time?
I mean, it was because Craig won World Championships won a medal at World Championships in August 2005, and I started with him in December. So he was the biggest thing going around at the time. And Benita was still dominating. You know, she'd won the World Champs the year before. Sonia was still running. So it was really good. I was lucky that Shane Nankervis, who's Ballarat, he was in the group as well. So I wasn't totally getting dominated. Like, we could train together. Pretty well. So that was good. But it was just good experience to see how they train, and you do learn a lot.
Is there anything that stands out like that just clicked for you straight away and you're like, all right, this is how they operate and I haven't been doing that? Yeah,
probably at the time. I remember driving up to Falls Creek from Ballarat. I was spending a 2-week camp up there, and it takes 5 or 6, maybe 5.5 hours, to get there from here. So by the time I got there, it was dark, and I walk into a house that they're all sort of just hanging out in. Hadn't met all of them, and first thing was Shane picked on me about my haircut, and then the next thing was Nick asked me what I had for dinner, and I said I just grabbed Macca's in Wangaratta, and that was like, no. So professionalism.
Great start.
But it was good because the whole next 2 weeks, Sonia was like cooking me dinner. So that worked out pretty well. But I guess the biggest thing was just the professionalism, and it was their full-time job. So it's just 9:30 in the morning, you do your first run, gym during the day, second run 5:30, and it's just that every day. Don't miss a beat. If you need to see physio, they've got one there. You do that. It's just all those 1%ers that they didn't make a big deal out of. It was just their life. Yeah.
And does it get to a stage? Because I know if I was in that environment, I remember going for a run with you at Falls Creek and kind of sitting. Andy Buchanan and I were up there. Must have been only 10 of us up there one time. We did Fitz's hut and we were cracking ourselves because we looked up to you so much. And then you asked us if we wanted to warm down afterwards, and we warmed down and we got in the car and we're like, oh shit, Collis is a pretty good bloke and stuff. And you were talking to us, but was there a stage where you go from looking up to the guys to seeing yourself on the same level as the guys?
I mean, I'm sure there is a point, but you don't really notice it. It's just an evolution, I guess. But I don't know. For me, it happened very quickly where end of 2005, I was working as a apprentice carpenter here in Ballarat, and I remember running the World Junior cross country trials, and I'm working with my boss, and Shane's running them as well. He's running the senior ones, and he's driving around Lake Gardens up here, taking the day off work, resting up for that race that night, and he sees me standing in a concrete driveway shoveling concrete. It was just kind of, and then running that night, and then a year or two later, and you're full time. It was.
That's also a gutsy move to say put the apprenticeship on hold and chase the dreams, and because it wasn't you committed to a big contract straight away. You had to train hard and kind of make that breakthrough before the professional life was going to work.
Yeah, you definitely. But it's just one of those things. You just you're excited to do it as well. And Nick makes it very. He's so supportive that he gives you every opportunity to succeed. So it's not about you don't have to spend a lot of money or anything to put in the effort to do it. You could do it here from Ballarat. You just need to be focused, and you don't need the $1 million contract or the support from. You can do it. You just got to know what to do and focus.
So then there would have been a time where Ballarat now just becomes the spot where you are for maybe Christmas and a couple of months of the year, and you're spending time overseas when you're in that environment with Nick's group? Yeah,
so we my kind of schedule, I guess, was we would go overseas in about April, 2008, before where this photo was, the same one. I think I left mid-March, went and ran World Cross Country, which was late March. Then at that time, I was trying to qualify for the Olympics. I'd ran 13:28, and I had to run 13:21.5. So I was close, but I kind of thought that 13:28 was as good as I had. And then I had a shocker at World Cross Country back in the 80s again, and I was a bit down. And then from there, Nick just told me he had all the races planned, and he said, okay, go to America and race a 5K road race, which we've done a few times, Carlsbad 5K. That was early April, and then a couple of weeks after that, you're going to run Mount Sac, and that's where you're going to try and run the time. So I went over there, went with a good friend who Nick Bromley, who I think he's won 4 national 800 metre titles. He came over. Gary Henry, who was like the assistant coach, and we run this 5K. Nick ran it as well, even though he was an 800 runner, and I think I came 4th. Mo Farah, who probably wasn't the Mo Farah we all know, he was 3rd, and I ran 13:29 on the road. So it was
and that's almost U-turns and stuff too.
Almost a PB, and it was on the road. So I was wrapped, and we went out that night. Celebrated, and there was a lot of kind of big motivational talks from people oh, you can do it, all this, and whatever. Just
at this stage, had 2 other people already ran the time, or if you could hit the time, you'd be on the team? Yeah,
it was just Buster. He was the only one on the team, and it was likely that if I ran the time, I'd be the only other person on the team. And then went to Mount Sac, and still to this day, I kind of consider it one of my better runs, because I think maybe with a mile to go, I went to the lead and kind of just wound it up, and I think crossed the line, didn't know if I got it, ran maybe 13:21.37, just under. It was really good, but it was good that someone was planning it for me. Someone And if I didn't do it there was other races like backups.
Yeah.
But thankfully I got it there.
Yeah. Well, when we had Selma on the show, I think a lot of people were, I know myself, like just seeing how well it's planned out, and here's your flights and here's your accommodation, and like having all that taken care of so you can just worry about performing in the races you're in must really help.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And it's probably, I think we've got better at it, Australia as a whole. Like I see people travelling now who are a bit more organised, they have some connections. But certainly at the time when I was coming through, Nick was, the only guy doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. So you hit that time, go to your first Olympics. Tell us about that experience.
Yeah, it was quick. I remember I was only at the Olympics for I reckon maybe 5 days.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Hong Kong training camp, we were there for maybe a week and a half, and then we flew in on the Monday night, then raced on the Wednesday. I missed the final by maybe 8 seconds in a few places, I think, and then gone before the closing ceremony.
Yeah.
It was
So it's
really
not
quick.
that romantic Olympic experience that we think of, having fun in the village.
I mean, it is. It was.
Yeah.
It was great. It was really good, and friends and family came over to watch it, so it was great to see them there. And it's kind of the pinnacle of the sport, but it just happened so quickly. And I think at the time, people were so concerned about Beijing and the smog and all that, so no one was really staying there for a long time. Like we couldn't go to the opening ceremony, like we weren't allowed. So
Yeah, right. So then come home pretty hungry, like just missing that final.
I went back to Europe.
Yep.
So I was away from mid-March to the end of September that year. Yeah, so it was a long time away.
How do you find being away so much? Like you must get so used to living out of a suitcase, and you've been doing this for like 12, 13 years. Like when's the last time you spent a whole year in Ballarat?
Oh, this year is going to be the first year since 2005.
Yeah, 13 years.
Yeah. I loved it. And it was really easy back then because you're only 22, 23, and what else are you going to do? You're just enjoying every moment of it. There's a lot of good people to travel with. We had good fun. We all lived in the same house. It was definitely a bit of a boys' club. Like there was, I think maybe eight guys living in the one house. So it was lots of fun. Yeah.
You're speaking a lot in past tense. Is it this show's over? Like it's Ballarat now, finish off the apprenticeship and that's it?
Ballarat's... I'm definitely in Australia all this winter.
Yeah.
But I think my goals have changed to the point where I want to run a marathon, and I can do that from here. Whereas I think to be successful on the track, you need to be over in Europe at that time of year.
In those good races. So marathon 2011, London, 24K pulled out, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
A lot of people wouldn't know. I think Julian spoke about it on a podcast a few weeks ago that you have started a marathon before and didn't finish. Do you want to tell us what happened that day?
So I started the London Marathon. I kind of had a disrupted lead up. I had like bursitis in my left Achilles, so I got an injection for that, a cortisone injection. Went and saw a physio in Ireland, and I was supposed to run World Cross Country maybe 10 days after, and I tried to get up for that and actually tore the sheath of my Achilles. Yeah. So that was in the month prior to London, and I still ran, still tried to run, but I think I got to about 24k and just thought this isn't going the way I want, and I thought, well, the whole reason to do this was to try and qualify for 2012 at the Olympics. Scrap that and just run the 5k again. Yeah. So basically I decided there and then that I was going to put it on hold, try and focus on the 5k, and it probably worked out because I did qualify.
Yeah. And then to not go back until, like, you were going to run Fukuoka last year, 2017, at the end of the year, but, like, that's a big break between 2011 and end of 2017.
Yeah, I think I just continued to have success on the track, so that kind of stops you. And then later in my career, I've just had a few injuries that, you want to run with a perfect prep. It doesn't always come around, but that's basically why it was always pushed. I always wanted a few months of good training before doing one, so hopefully I can get that.
And I guess when you're doing it for a job, to be able to jump in races every 2 or 3 weeks, if it's 5 or 10Ks or 1,500, compared to one marathon in 4 months, and then run one, have 4 months until you can race again.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Have you seen the whole marathon scene change over the years? Like, I guess when you first started running at 12 and 13, the way you would have looked at a marathon compared to every, Joe Blow's doing one now in 4.5 hours. And there's nothing wrong with that, but have you noticed a shift in?
I guess, I'm not heavily involved in the marathon, like, compared to what I was in the track. But yeah, I love that it's popular. I think it's great, and I think it's weird, but running is so popular. I find it strange that athletics isn't.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's so many people, like there's 60,000 people at New York Marathon, yet athletics isn't popular. Yeah. So
what would you do to fix that if you're in charge, or why do you think that is?
I don't know what I do. It's not an easy thing to do, but I think it's impossible to do, but I think that the reason athletics is unpopular is the same reason it's great, and I would say that's because of the Olympics. The Olympics are such a big event that it really holds our attention, but it's only every 4 years, whereas every other popular sport like soccer, basketball, football, baseball, like they own their major event, whereas athletics, every 4 years someone else looks after it, so it's difficult.
100%. We're going to pause it there for a drink break, and then Julian's going to do part 2 of the interview. So thanks for everything you've told me so far. And we're going to have a quick 10-minute break, and then Big Moose is going to take over.
Need more energy, endurance, and faster recovery? Try Modex. Powered by Pycnogenol, Modex boosts blood flow and reduces inflammation for more efficient performance. More energy, more focus, more recovery, more immune support. Modex. Do more, naturally, every day. Modex is scientifically proven to be beneficial for immune support, energy, brain function, endurance and physical performance, healthy joints, blood circulation, inflammation reduction, and recovery. It contains no GMOs, no caffeine, no harmful ingredients, and is diet-friendly, whether you eat keto, paleo, vegetarian, dairy-free, gluten-free, or practice intermittent fasting. Modex is HASTA certified for sport. Learn more via modexnatural.com.
All right, part 2. We're ready to roll. My name's Julian. I'm part of the podcast as well. Also, seller of shoes. Train with Collis occasionally on a Sunday, where we talk a lot of rubbish that I'd love to talk right now. So Brady, the fanboy's finished, and my job's to maybe get into some media questions, something where we'll hear some opinions maybe that you haven't really aired before. But first, I'm just going to tell you a little story about, I guess, how well known you are in Ballarat, or how well known you are in the running world, from a non-runner's perspective. So I was sitting around the dinner table the other night, and I said, and Bree obviously has seen all this fanfare and the podcast, and we all get a little excited when we talk about Collis. And Bree said, "Oh, how good was Collis? Isn't he just Selma's boyfriend?" Obviously, Selma's an Olympian herself. And I said, "Oh, you definitely said that." Yeah, I know it's true. We all know it's true. And I said, oh, you know, Mo Farah and Galen Rupp, those videos that I watch all day. I was about to say occasionally, but I meant to say all day.
Where's this heading?
Well, let me show you a few videos, and this was one of the ones that I was thinking of. So let's all turn around and appreciate one of my favourite races of Collis.
Very confident right now. I mean, he, not in an overly confident way, but he just likes what he thinks things are clicking.
And now Nick Willis moving up. He comes into 5th position overall. As we're going to get to the back of the stretch, it'll be that 600-meter mark, and there goes Rupp. Rupp, Birmingham. They're not able to respond. Behind him, challenging now for 3rd is Abdi, and Willis will settle for being in that 5th spot. You can see it on his face. Galen Rupp running this group down to the front straightaway. They'll break to the bell lap. He wasn't able to break the group. It's now really the 3 of them in front. Rupp, Birmingham, Abdi beginning to fade a little bit. 12:23 at the bell.
Birmingham holding on nicely.
And Birmingham, the 2-time Olympian, trying to stay with Galen Rupp. They went 59 seconds on the previous lap, and now it's a 2-man race. Abdi just about 8 or 9 meters back now. They began to lap the field. Less than 200 to go.
Stride for stride. Birmingham is not letting him go. Here he comes, he's moving up on his shoulder. 150 to go.
And Birmingham makes his move. Rupp trying to respond. You got the crowd in the infield, a lot of former athletes who run tonight enjoying this show as well. As Birmingham's going to maybe upend what we thought would be the storyline. As Rupp looks around, he relinquishes and gives the lead and the victory to Birmingham. Rupp will finish in 2nd, 13:18:57 for Birmingham. And Rupp, 13:19:60.
Willis coming up in 3rd, 13:20. It's a good day for him too.
And if that is...
All right. You remember that?
Yeah.
High fives.
Yeah. I actually like I like that because I'm not sure if you noticed, but Selma, Ryan Gregson, Jen Lacars, and another good friend of mine, Paul Robinson, they're the ones like going crazy on the inside of the track, running around. Like they probably ran as much as I did. Yeah.
They got you over the line.
Yeah.
Well, I like it because the commentator had pretty much given the race to Galen already. If you watch the full video, they don't even mention anyone else.
Yeah.
But for context, Galen Rupp, he's won a silver medal in the marathon, and he's also won a bronze medal, was it? Or 2 silvers now in the Olympics.
Yeah, 2 silvers, yeah.
2 silvers, yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
it's 10K, yeah.
That's the kind of runner that you just outkicked there. But we are going to put on another little bit of footage because this is a great segue into the next conversation, and that's about Collis Birmingham taking over as maybe Australia's best runner for a long period of time. Sorry to make you turn.
But this is now a race between 2 men. So, but nevertheless, a good performance by this man. Twice world half.
This is the Great Australian Run in 2008. It was held twice.
So he is a talent, and he found his master today. Now then, let's have a look for 3rd place. It was, I think, Collis Birmingham. It looks as though he's a Beijing Olympian, incidentally, over 5,000 metres. He's coming down now. The Australian 10,000 metre champion last year.
Not sure what I was thinking with the haircut.
He must have run the second half of the race faster than the first. He really did make a difference in the second 7.5 kilometres. And Craig Mottram, well, found life a little bit tough, didn't he, in the final stages. Some that were saying that perhaps he might challenge Haile Gebrselassie, but not so today. But Craig's a good athlete too.
All right, I remember watching this on TV when I'd barely started running, and I remember thinking, no one's going to beat Craig Mottram today. This is Craig, like, obviously Gebrselassie, Patrick Macau, but then the Australians, this is Craig Mottram's day. It's Melbourne, it's his hometown, and then Collis Birmingham runs past him late last kilometre. And I thought, wow, who's this? I mean, obviously, athletics, people would know you, but from an outsider, that was a big race, significant.
Yeah, and it was significant for me because I guess up until this point, maybe 2 months previous to this, Craig and I had spent like most of the previous 2 years together training. That year he came over to World Cross in March, and we went World Cross Country, Flagstaff, St. Moritz, Hong Kong, and then the Olympics. And from the Olympics, we pretty much stopped training together. And this was the first time we met each other after that. Yeah.
Is it when Craig left Nick that you stopped training together?
Yeah. Yep.
So during the last few months that you were training with Craig and you're doing workouts together, how competitive does that get when he obviously realises someone's coming up on him in the athletics world, Australia, and it's every day you're spending with him?
I don't see it the same way, because at the time it was two different levels. Up until the race before the Olympics, like I think he ran 7:35, finishing in 53 seconds at Stockholm over 3,000 and beat some of the best guys in the world. So it's definitely up until the Olympics, we weren't competing against each other. He was competing against Bikili, Legat, those guys, and I was like the next level down. I think even here, although I did beat him, it was probably a situation where I'd probably been doing a little bit more post the Olympics than he had. But we didn't actually race against each other for another, at least another year after that. And that's probably the point where I had actually caught up. It's just this happened to happen a year earlier and was probably a bit of a surprise for all of us, yeah.
But looking back now, it seems to have set the stage for what was going to happen going forward. Now, Craig's spat was pretty publicised with Nick. How did that affect the group you were training with, knowing that there was the former training partner, you spent a lot of time with him, in conflict with your manager, coach?
Yeah, I mean, not a lot. Like, we at the time there was myself, Ryan Gregson, Jeff Risley, a few, Nick Bromley, a few others. We were kind of the young guys, and for a lot of these guys, they were like, certainly Ryan and Jeff, they were really young. Ryan was 18 or 19 that next year after Craig left. So we were kind of just enjoying ourselves, training hard, and it was it was a change, obviously, and we spent that whole next year, the whole next 2 years, I think. I don't think Buster ran in 2009, the following year. So we spent 2 years, and it was certainly within Australia, we were the informed guys, and so we really had it to ourselves in some respect. So it didn't really affect, what you're like when you're that young. Like you don't really think about things that aren't in front of you. So for me personally, all the things that were going on wasn't such a big deal. The one noticeable thing that I found definitely the next year was I found that it actually worked out better for me to be turning up to training sessions and not being flogged by this super talent. Like, I could not try and chase and just do what I needed to do for each session. So I found that it actually helped me a lot to be, I guess, the informed guy in the group.
The big dog. You became the big dog.
Well, 2009, the next year, still, I mean, I ran faster later, but it was still one of my better years, certainly. I think I made the World Champ final that year, ran the Australian record at the time for 10K, so it was a positive for me. But I think groups are like that. Like it's almost like a footy club. You take one guy out of it, and it's not going to, well, unless it's Gold Coast and you take Gary Ablett, it's not going to affect the rest of the group too much. It's you're a good team.
Yeah, the dynamic remains.
Yeah.
Okay. When you look back on your career, maybe one of the outstanding points or one of the things that is noticeable is lack of high-level success at major championship events, and that's, I guess, acceptable for the average athlete who barely makes it to the championship level. However, you were winning Diamond Leagues at the time, and we were watching you beat Galen Rupp in a 5,000 metres. You won it was a 3,000 metre Diamond League?
It was a World Challenge.
World Challenge, okay. Yeah. But then you finished second in a Diamond League race in the 5,000 metres. Crystal Palace, was it?
Yep.
Yeah, and so they're pretty much mini world championships in themselves. That's why whenever I watch one, I think this is the best in the world racing. So I guess the criticism, maybe looking back, in general, I've heard it mentioned a lot, is that the peaking of your training wasn't quite spot on for those championships.
Yep.
How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, my biggest disappointment was 2012 at the Olympics, because I felt like I was in great shape, and the Olympics was a lower level than my racing on either side of it. And that's one of those things where, like, hindsight, you might do things differently, and I would say that for me, a lot of the time I would probably get in the way of myself. I'd make some bad decisions with regard to pushing through things that I shouldn't push through. Maybe not wanting to admit that I was tired and doing something when I could have just, like, training wise, said, actually, I'm tired today. Like, it's the same mistakes that no matter your level everyone makes. It's just, I think when you're taking it as serious as what I was, you should probably know when you need to slow down. Maybe if something's a bit sore, take the day off or just go easy. And I probably suffered from that a few times. 2012 comes to mind, in 2013. Both different things, but still just not listening to my body, whether it be something that's sore or just tired. And yeah, that's just something you have to deal with. But I also think that a couple of the results, not that I was lucky, but like second in a Diamond League to Mo Farah, I think it was just Mo Farah, myself, and the guy that was third were probably the best three guys easily in that race. It wasn't, even though it is a mini world champs, you don't have 15 countries and their best three guys from every country in those races.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you don't tell people that. You just say
mini
world. You came second at the mini world.
Thankfully, I don't know too many people that listen to this podcast.
Well, we have some of your closer friends actually that listen and provided some content for the podcast, and one of them, we'll go back a little bit to the Great Australian Run while it's on my mind, and there's something related to Sexes on Fire, maybe. Can you explain that one before the race?
It's very tame.
Don't worry, Selma. It's all good.
Yeah. No, it's very tame, but that Kings of Leon song was pretty popular at the time, and I was living in Richmond at the time, and Lockie Oliver came down. He was running in the race as well, and the people across the road had this absolute rager and just played that song, not even the whole song, just the big chorus line over and over until about 2 a.m. that morning, so we got like no sleep. Then had to go and race the race, but it was all right.
Didn't hurt?
No, it didn't hurt.
No. Maybe a bit of pump up music.
Yeah, it was certainly in my head as I ran around.
Okay, the next bit of footage we have is maybe from the most prestigious result that you had in your career, outside of winning the Chas Safran. It's the World Cross Country Championships, which is referred to as the hardest race in the world, the best field. You get 800 metre runners all the way up to marathoners in the same race, and the field is deep and the courses are tough. So have a look at this race from Poland, 2013. It's not the best footage, this one. Just pause that there, Brady. So you've just gone to the lead in the World Cross Country Championships, which has that been won by an Australian before?
The women's has.
The women's, exactly.
Deeks was 4th, and so was Mona.
Yeah. What's going through your head right there?
Now or then?
Both.
'Cause now I'm thinking, why did you go to the lead? At the time, I obviously felt really good. It was a funny race because there was a false start. So there's 120 people in the race, and we all ran 60 or 70 metres, and it then stopped and had to go back. And World Cross Country is famous for like ridiculous pace from the gun, and I really think that helped me certainly, and just it changed the way the race was ran. That, and there was a few falls early, which it's cross country running, you got to put up with that sort of stuff. But it certainly changed the way the race was won, and it meant that rather than going out flat out and sort of hanging on, I was able to get into a position, and maybe even if it was a bit too early to be thinking of this sort of stuff, I was thinking about how I could run the race to my advantage. And I think, I'm not sure where this also is on the course, but it was a very technical, the back end was very technical, lots of turns, muddy, Africans.
A lot of Africans
don't like the cold, and they were very unsure about their footing around the technical part. So I was basically thinking, work hard through the technical section, work hard up the hills because I'm from Ballarat. There's plenty of hills, and then just try and get it swinging in my favour. Yeah, even though it probably ends up that I should have just been sitting there holding on to dear life. That's what I was thinking at this stage.
We wouldn't have been able to talk about it like this. So last year, you were in a National Geographic documentary. That's what's the most famous that's come out of it since this, the Nike Breaking 2 project. And I guess, do you want to explain firstly how you were approached to be a part of the project, and maybe a little bit about what the plan was for that? We'll call it an event. It wasn't quite a race, so more an event.
Yep. So I got called up by Nick, who'd been approached by some people at Nike looking for pacemakers, and it was maybe 3 weeks before the race or the event, and he asked me if I wanted to do it, and I said yes straight away. And then he was in Australia, I was in America at the time, and then I hung up the phone and I thought to myself, because the last couple of years I've been injured a fair bit, haven't had the best runs with training, And I thought to myself, I don't think I asked him how fast they want to be paced. I'd said yes. And then I found out, I messaged him and he said that they want 14, I think it was 14:10 pace for 5K, but it was only 3 mile legs. So that's roughly like 13:40 for 3 mile. Yeah.
4.9? 4.8 kilometres around that, isn't it?
Yeah, 4.8 something.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you were aware of what they were trying to achieve?
Yeah, definitely. It was a big thing, so everyone was pretty aware. Yeah.
Can you just talk us through getting to Italy? It was held on the Monza racecourse in Italy, and there was obviously a lot of hype about it. Nike did a great job here, because I remember it was on Lap of the Lake Day, and we all crowded around a phone, Mona, and basically had his phone out. We're all watching what was happening. Like, that's pretty incredible that they can achieve something like that. At a live event for running, you're saying athletics wasn't popular, but this, I would talk to someone in the supermarket and they knew what I was talking about.
Yeah, still to this day, it's probably the most devastating thing that's ever happened to me. The travel to the race. So it was in Monza, I was in San Diego, and I'm organising my travel with the Nike person who's booking the travel, and I get sent these first class tickets, and I've never been first class before, and I'm thinking, like, this is amazing. And I look closer and it says from LA to Monza. So I email the person back and I say, all looks good, just one thing, I'm actually in San Diego, which is, it's about like 2 hours max. And he goes, yeah, no worries, I'll fix it. So I sort it out, I get sent the flights again, economy. And I'm thinking, like, someone was there. It was like there was a death in the family. I locked myself away and I just thought, like, I would walk to LA for those flights. But it was a bad start, but then we got there and it was fantastic. There was like 30 pacemakers, and to be involved in something where, I mean, you go to the Olympics and things like that, and it was all about you, or you make it all about yourself, obviously. But to go there and just be so chilled out, it's like, because by that time I was confident I could hit the times. I didn't want to trip them up, obviously, that was a big concern. But once we got there, it was just a lot of fun, hanging out with all the other pacemakers, and we didn't see much of the other guys. Obviously, they were pretty serious and kept to their routines, but yeah, it was just a lot of fun.
Well, let's have a look at you starting your shift, we'll call it. I think this is at 5K mark or roundabouts.
One major marathons, the other two, but this was different, and this was something new for them that would motivate their team, motivate their coach, their group, and they were really part of something. And to me, again, it harkens back to the early 50s when people were chasing after the first sub-4 minute mile, when scientists at that time were not the friends of the athletes. Scientists were telling athletes their heart might explode if they broke 4 minutes, because people have been trying to break 4 minutes since the first man broke 4:10. Jules from France in 1929. So for more than 20 years, people have been trying to break that barrier unsuccessfully. But someone like Roger Bannister, himself a scientist, was able to embrace the possibility. He didn't believe in the limits, and he was able to become the first man to break 4 minutes.
They're with the paces, Kevin.
Winning the race at that point. This was the worst part about this whole project. Kevin Hart.
Yeah.
We have some audio difficulties with Kevin. We'll get his mic fixed and get some perspective from him there.
No thoughts about going around the car at this point?
No. It was. We actually got high marks. My little group. There's 3 of us at the front, because we kept that real sort of arrowhead formation, and yeah, they didn't want you spreading out too much. So No, we were high marks. We were a good crew.
Yeah. Well, was there an incentive financial if Elliot or one of the other guys broke 2 hours?
Not that I'm aware of. Yeah. No.
Okay.
But I mean, we trained hard in this aspect, like getting into formation. We were up at like 3 a.m. for 3 or 4 mornings in a row training, because they wanted to. The course was a car racing track, and they were still using it in the lead up. So we had to do it at times that they weren't using it. Right. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Brady. Now, we're going to move to a subject that's been covered a lot recently. There's a lot of, publicity around it, a lot of news stories breaking daily, and that is drugs in distance running. So I'm going to read this sheet so I don't mess up and get in trouble here, because this is important. Brady always tells me I can't say anything that's going to get us in trouble. How is the feel in the elite world now with all the breaking drug scandals, Kenya, Russia? Well, they're the big ones that have happened the last couple of years. So how do you, for instance, do you guys, as training groups, you mentioned everyone hangs out together, you talk with the pacers, you go to the same races, stay in the same hotels. Do you sit around and have a coffee and go, oh, how about that bloke who beat us last week getting pinged?
Funny, yeah, yes. Like there is a lot of race hotels and having lunch, having coffee, and you talk with other athletes and you hear things. But it's funny because obviously you want to give everyone the opportunity to defend themselves. Like you want. I've never been one for like speculation, and I don't like it when people say this person's on drugs. Like until they're caught, you're better off not thinking about it because it doesn't really help you. Certainly when someone's done, there's a lot of pissed off people, and it gets talked about a lot. Particularly things like. The Russian walks coach that just consistently has athletes done for drugs, and for a long, I think maybe he's banned now, but for a long time he wasn't, and that really, sorry, I'm shivering. That really gets on people's nerves and is talked about a lot. Yeah.
And we haven't seen Mo Farah up on the screen yet, but Mo Farah trained down here with you. Can you tell us a little about that?
Yeah. So Mo came here in 2006 before the Commonwealth Games. He trained here he actually came to Ballarat. Like I was probably not, I was in Ballarat obviously, I was training with Rod at the time still. So I didn't really know Mo. Like my first experience of Mo was we actually went to Hobart, and I was running the 800 and my brother decided to come over, and he didn't organise any accommodation just because that's just the way he is. And I was rooming with Mo, and Mo just goes, I'll just stay on the floor, And I thought, that's kind of cool. I don't think he's getting anyone to stay on his floor now. And he ran around Ballarat. Like a lot of guys here probably would have trained with him at the time, ran with him. But obviously he's gone on to do some amazing things. Yeah.
This question: how do you feel about having a convicted doper join your training group, which happened last year? His name was Hamza Druich,
yep.
And he was from Qatar.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that we weren't happy about. It's a funny one because I'd never met the guy until he turned up at Falls Creek, and the scenario was that my coach was coaching the Qatari athletics team, and basically it's you coach these 4 guys. One of them's a convicted drug cheat, and yeah, that's how it is. So it wasn't really an option to coach. For me, it wasn't really an option whether he's in the group or not.
He's just there.
Yeah.
Celebrate. There was a little bit, like, the thing that got me out of this is that it seemed like there was a little bit of celebrating on social media that he was there. Not from yourself, but from others in the group.
Yeah.
It's like, and that might have been what got to a few people.
Yeah. I mean, I can understand it. Like, the guy, as far as I'm aware, he's a drug cheat. And that's something that, you know, I guess for me, just because he's a drug cheat doesn't change anything about me, doesn't change anything about the people I train with. But what it did for me was I probably learnt a little bit about their situation a little bit more. And by no means am I saying that because of the way he was brought into the sport, is there an excuse to take drugs? But I think going back to like that Russian coach, like, and Kenya, for example, there's a massive problem with drugs in those countries, and whether or not this is an excuse for him, but I just think that sometimes like a 16-year-old Moroccan who's taken to Qatar and given a wage, and his whole life's funded by the Qatari Federation, and he's done for drugs at 17 because his coach is dodgy and tells him this is what, like, it's not really an excuse. Like, I'm not sure I accept it, but I can kind of see that at that age, like, maybe he should be given the opportunity to still compete afterwards. I don't know. I don't even know how I feel about it.
Yeah, I think his story is a little different, and I may have loaded it a little just there.
Well, I mean, but the facts are facts. Is he failed the drug test, so he's a drug cheat. But I just think, like, I mean, I've got a brother who's 13 years younger than me, and I kind of think if he was 16 years old, moved from Morocco to Qatar, and this guy just said, this is the way we do things here, like, what do you do? I don't know. Yeah.
It is a tough. I'm sure.
Yeah.
I'm sure someone's asking.
But
that
everyone, like, I don't think there's. I wouldn't judge someone for having a different opinion to me. Yeah. He's no longer in the group either.
Does Nick coach Qatar still?
No, he just did the 1 year and then got out of there.
Okay. How did you meet Selma? And you are both Olympians, and running is a very selfish sport, as every single person in this room knows. How is it balancing 2 elite careers in the same house?
Mine just took precedent. Like, it's basically like.
I can't tell if you're joking or not.
No, I mean, I was in the sport longer. Yeah. No, it was great, to be honest, to have someone that was doing. I mean, we were different distances. I had to train a lot harder. No, we different. Someone was an 800-metre runner, so we obviously did things very differently. I ran 180 kilometres a week. Someone would run about 80, and her speed work and track sessions are obviously a lot different to mine. But at the same time, we still both put in the same amount of effort, and it was good to just be in a routine together, and also being able to fly around the world together, and it made it easier for sure.
Sounds like my position with Bree. We both do the same job, but my workload's a lot higher. I'll deal with that one later. So, this is a great quote, one of my favourites ever, from any type of media or elite athlete. It's by your good mate, Nath Hartigan. And he said, "It's great to be a full-time professional runner and all, but you can't build a teepee from your Australian uniforms at the end of your career and live under it." Now,
that's because he's got no Australian uniforms. So he actually cannot build a teepee out of it.
It's true, it's a fact. He can't do that.
Fact.
Whereas it sounds like you have a lot of ASICS uniforms you can use as doormats.
Yeah, I could get a decent sized TP out of my...
Yeah. Well, you'd be the exception, because there's a lot of professional runners that are having a crack at it, and there's really two ways to look at it. I can't work out how to look at it best. You can say, oh, this is great, they're sacrificing their life to chase their dream. And then the other way to look at it is they're a little, maybe they're delusional that they think this is going to make a career for them, and they're basically putting themselves and their life backwards 10 years. And I guess I see similarities between maybe the 80s and 90s VFL, AFL guys who still kept working throughout this period. I know they got paid more than you did, but they would get spat out at the end of this football career, and they would not know what to do. They would have no education, no apprenticeship, no jobs, and there was a very hard transition to get them into a working life.
Yeah, I mean, so what was the question?
No, that was
you just said
cool
something.
Story by me.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I do have a question here. Do you regret not following up or continuing your apprenticeship throughout your running career early on? No. I think with what I was doing, it was probably too difficult of a job to continue, and also do the high level of training, the travel. But I do think you need to be moving forward in some way with that post career, and I definitely know people that aren't moving forward, and I worry about them when they do finish. But then I know a lot of people who have done and are doing a lot to better themselves for post career. But it's hugely important. I think our sport, it's all choice. Like, I mean, I hear people that complain about finishing their career and not having anything and having to sell medals to survive. Like, you hear it probably every Olympic year, but that was their choice. Maybe they were misguided with the value of an Olympic medal. But then I hear people who work full time and they complain that they don't get enough time to train. It's like, well, you can do whatever you want. I chose to train and see how it went, and that was before I earned any money. That was before any of that. So I guess you just make a choice. You just got to live with it and not complain. Yeah. Again, I don't know how to look at it either. I love to see people chase their dreams and work hard for it.
You probably need to be realistic as well. That's why I like to see, and we were talking about it earlier, I like to see people who are putting a lot of time into it, like, don't just do the same old thing thinking that you're going to get better from it. Actually go out and have some experiences. And that's talking today about Croaks. Croaks is over. He won, who's the third guy on the podcast, he won Christchurch half marathon today. And I think he could have easily have gone down to Launceston and run well there, but he chose to do something a little bit different. He got a good experience, I'm sure, how to win, and you probably got some money for it as well, you know. So I would just make sure that you're not only chasing your dreams, but you're experiencing some things as well. I think it'll help.
Great. Yeah. Now, I'd like to throw it out to the audience for some questions, because I'm sure after listening and hearing Collis answer some things, you might have gone, oh, well, what about this? So, does anyone have any questions for Collis that they'd like him to answer?
How fast is he going to run the marathon?
Oh, great question. And which marathon?
Yeah, good question. I don't know. Like, I must admit, through my track running, I couldn't believe that Australia hasn't had a sub 2:10 marathoner since Troopy in 2004, maybe. I think, yeah, maybe. I just, you see everyone running so quick, and then I tried to do the training to run possibly that time, and I broke down, and I thought, well, maybe that's why. So I'm not going to go and say that I can go out there and do something like that, but I like to think that if I can get some good training together, I could run around those times. But it's such a difficult thing, and like, I'm sure a few of you will go and run a marathon. Well, I know a few of you are running marathons in the next couple of months, and it's with the marathon, it just seems that you can do all the work and be flying, and then just that little bit off, and it's just magnified by so much when you run a marathon if you're just that little bit off. So yeah, I guess be wary of setting big times, but the challenge is good as well.
I think you said 2:10, Jason.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I guess I had my first experience of that earlier in the year. I went and ran the World Half, and I've just started working again as a carpenter, and I'm travelling a lot. I work down in Lawn, so I travel back and forth a few times a week. I'm lucky that I've got a really good boss, so he makes it easy on me, but still, like 5 a.m. mornings going for runs, then getting in the car, driving down to Lawn, working a full day, coming back, getting dropped off in Buninyong, running home and doing a session along the way. Like, that's what I was doing, and it hasn't been like that for the last few weeks. I've kind of just been running once a day, so I've made it a bit easier on myself. But I think it'll just be managing my time a little bit better. Probably picking goals, and not doing so many things, like racing more infrequently and just picking big goals that I can focus on. I think that's how I'll do it, rather than just jumping in everything like I used to. Yeah.
Sounds a lot like how we all do it, actually. Is pick a big goal. That's what
we work hard where we are, though. Yeah. Yeah.
I heard you work a few days a week. Tommy?
Through your years where you were 18 through to sort of 24, 25, how do you sort of avoid those social pressures of all the people that you went to school with, having parties 21st? How do you sort of avoid all them to try and make them understand that running's your career?
Yeah, I mean, I always try to celebrate my wins or my achievements. I made sure that those were celebrated, however you might do it, whether it be go out with your mates or in some other way. I always made sure that I celebrated those, but didn't just do needless celebrations, I guess, or so I would come back from Europe every year and I would enjoy my time with my mates. Or if I had a big run, I would like enjoy my time for maybe that night or the next day, whatever it might be. But then you have to switch back on. So that's basically what I did. I certainly didn't allow myself to get carried away and miss training at all, really. I just made sure I stayed on the routine and celebrate the wins, but then right back into action.
No praying mantis?
I don't.
The reference was made by one of your friends to your dance move, the praying mantis, maybe?
I actually don't remember ever dancing.
Oh.
Yeah.
Maybe you were just walking and
it might have been my state. Might have been my state of mind at the time. I don't know. Yeah.
Right. Okay. We'll have to get some footage one day, and we'll make sure all the podcast listeners can see it. Bernie.
Talking before about athletics not being a popular sport, and probably when you were growing up, there was Premier League and interclub in Victoria was big in Australia. Now that the juniors coming through haven't got the same opportunities, if you were CEO of Athletics Victoria or even Athletics Australia, what would you be looking at doing to improve the sport?
Yeah.
And just taken earlier in the year, Lee and Adams gave a view too, so just interested to see.
Yeah, I mean, at no point do I think it's an easy job, first of all. But, yeah, I would probably, I think I would scrap the things that aren't working, first of all. Like, as hard as it is, like, things that are working are things like Milers Club, the jumps clubs and things like that. Like, so I would make sure that I went with the things that are working. Like, for example, park run works, whereas maybe other club running doesn't work. So I know it's tough, but I would probably just try and lean on the things that are working and get. If that has the numbers, then that's probably where the sport needs to go. Yeah, I just think it's tough though. Yeah, I don't know.
That question gets asked a lot. Not as specifically as Bernie, but what do you do to help the sport? And
I think part of the problem is that our sport of athletics. I know most or all of us are runners, but running isn't a sport when it's looked at by the people that make the decisions in as far as the sports commission, things like that. So running is a very successful event within our sport, and it's extremely popular. You have park run, you have marathons, you have, every town in Australia has maybe not everyone, but they have a fun run. Like, I think Mackay had one on this morning. So running's very popular, but we're a sport of 20 different events, so it's hard to make it work for all those people when our idea of a great Sunday morning is going for a jog with our friends, but other sides of the sport, their idea of a Sunday morning is like going to the gym and lifting heavy things.
Separating throwing from running?
Yeah, I think it works for both sides. Like, I've seen I'm good friends with Ben Harradine, and he lives in Stockholm most of the time, and he goes to very successful throws events. It's just got the discus, and it's really popular amongst that community. So it could work. It's just, how do you do it? Because you've got to come back to the Olympics. Like, at the end of the day, we try and sell a sport to, let's say we walk into Channel 7 and we're trying to sell them athletics. But what we do is we say, do you want to put athletics on the TV every weekend, every year? And they say, yes, we do. And they say, but then they go, what about the Olympics? and we say to them, well, you actually have to go talk to someone else about that. Like it just won't. It's like the AFL saying, yeah, we'll put football on the TV, but you got to talk to that company about the grand final. Like, you don't get that. Yeah, and that's what our sport is.
Dino.
Just what advice would you give to your 17-year-old self today going into the international running world?
Yeah, I'd probably, me personally, I probably would have just looked at how good athlete, like I was definitely into the sport, but I'd never really looked at how good athletes went about their training, or that was sort of thrown onto me when I was 21, 22. I just thought about what I was doing, but I never really thought, okay, is there other ways to do it? What works for these people? How could that work for me? So I would probably just listen a bit more to the people around me.
Maddie?
How do you stay motivated during periods where you're continuously getting injured?
Thankfully, with the group I was involved in, I saw a lot of people go about it before me. I spent 90% of my career uninjured, and I just used to think, who gets injured? Like, basically, I could do whatever I want and not get injured. But I did see people who had to work hard at it. Ryan Gregson's a good example. He spent a lot of time injured in his younger days, and just seeing his work ethic, like, I definitely didn't work as hard as him when I was injured, but I don't think anyone could. But it just showed me that it's almost like you just tick the days off. You've got a stress fracture, you've got 8 weeks, just do everything you need to do and just get through it. And obviously the goal was to get back running, and that was enough of a reward. Yeah, it's tough though.
Nick?
Was there ever a time there where you really didn't enjoy it, and what did you do to combat that?
Yeah, not really. I think I've always enjoyed it. I remember one particular time I really didn't enjoy it was I pulled out of the World Champs 10K, like I DNF'd the 10K, and it was probably like really bad time the next few days, and I was really down in the dumps. So I had the 5K coming up, and then I remember my mum ringing me, and she said to me, like, I know you're upset, but if I ever hear you do an interview like that ever again, like, I'll give you a clip under the ear, that kind of thing. And like, that just made me feel even worse. But then I just sort of thought, you just got to, I just had to get on with it. So then I ended up running well in the 5K, but I just tried to refocus on something rather than dwell on it. Like, or I know it's different to what you asked, but I think just refocusing, snapping out of things and giving yourself a goal. Like, if you're not enjoying it, then maybe you don't have a goal. Like, I know that when I don't have something very close, you often think, it's easy to think, this run's not as important as like future runs or the runs I just did. But if you always have a goal, I think it's easier to make sure that all your runs are as important as each other.
All right. Well, before we finish up, I'll just mention that we have a stack of Breaking 2 photo cards that are going to be pretty rare because they keep those rights held very tight. So they're a bit of a limited edition, and we're going to give one to everyone here. We have a whole stack. We'll bring them up here, and if you'd like Collis to sign it, then form an orderly line, because you could put that away because I reckon that'll be something to look back on. I don't think this Nike Breaking 2 will ever go ahead again. And we got a pretty cool image of Collis running on a photo card. So that will happen next. But I'd just like to re-thank a few people. Jamie, thanks very much for having us. Great food. You've got good beer. Well done. Good coffee. So, yeah, really appreciate the space. Good on you, Jamie. We got Benny over here doing the stuff he does over there. Benny's the guy who plays the intro and outro music for our podcast, which is really cool music, actually. I listened to our first podcast the other day. It was quite good. The music, anyway. I stopped it after that. We have a gift for Benny. We've got a pair of Pegasus Nike shoes for him, and also and just a little thank you for the evening. Also, we have a gift for Collis as well. It's all down the back. It's not that impressive. I forgot to even, like half of, well, not half of it, maybe an eighth of the night was the Nike Pegasus launch, which we have down the back. Look, I'm not going to ruin the night by talking about it too much, but if you'd like to try on a pair, they're down the back.
We have
to give away 3 pairs. That's why you're all here still. Collis, you want to draw them out? So we've got names on here. Anyone who got a ticket?
Justine Rowe.
Justine. Good work, Justine. There you go, lady. Thanks for travelling the Rowe family.
Can't look.
Selma.
She wanted it.
No.
Is it?
No, that's the same one.
No, that's it.
Can you show
Yeah.
There's 4 people under the one.
Oh. Okay. Justine Rowe.
Oh, there you go. No, there's 4. You bought 4 tickets. No, Tully's saying no. She's saying shut up, Mum.
And Jason Stevens.
Jason also travelled Swan Hill.
There you go.
Came down from Swan Hill, Jason. So big thanks there. All right, great work. Anyone else that didn't win one? You're welcome to try some on. And a massive thank you to Collis for showing up tonight. Puts a lot of time back into local athletics and schools. It's great to celebrate his career, and we wish you all the best with your marathon.
No, thank you. Thanks for having me.
This weekend interview is powered by Modex. Need more energy, endurance and faster recovery? Try Modex. Visit www.modexnatural.com.
Could've stayed hung up, could've been knocked down, but here I stand, a man whose roots he understands, and I'm gonna hold my head up high. I was taught as a young man, doesn't matter if you're white or black, just show love to everyone you meet, doesn't matter if it don't come back. Under cover of my skin, I've heard all your names. If it's all the same, I'll keep on walking. Under cover of my skin, I've heard all your names. If it's all the same, I'll keep on walking. I keep holding on to the hope that all the suffering was for something. Something for something. Something for something. When it's said and done, all your words and all your hate don't mean nothing. Don't mean nothing. Don't mean nothing. Under